Shalom, shalom. As always, all honor, glory, and praise be to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waharakak Shalom to the Israel of God, to the hopeful elect men that are teaching and preaching the gospel, namely to the elder apostles over the Great Millstone Church, and on down to all the men that are teaching the same doctrine that they are, continuing in faith, seeking the kingdom that is to come. So I'm gonna kick this lesson off by saying Abba Ball, which means death to America, and America being a major topic at hand because America is where the majority of the nukes are going to fly and hit and ultimately destroy off the face of the earth. America, being the place that has been set up as a stage, if you will, a stage for the entire earth to watch, because it's a place where the so-called white man's wickedness is performed on high, like in a major way, directly to the Israelites, who all ultimately were, brought here in the various means that we were. Some, came, the Northern Kingdom, that was here. They came on their own, but the Southern Kingdom, so-called black people, so-called Negroes came over, and we all so-called black people. The entire T of the nation of Israel are so-called black people, which includes the so-called Negroes, the Latinos, and Native American Indian people scattered amongst the earth, all right? The so-called Latinos and so-called natives were in America already. They came to America fleeing, the Assyrian captivity, I believe. The Apocrypha tell you they came to the New World, a world where, no man ever dwelt, in the old times, So they came here and they, that's why they were found to be in the Americas, according to even secular history, the so-called white man's history. And then also, according to history, understand that so-called Negroes were brought over on slave ships, But let's get this real quick before we get to the point. This is Jeremiah 50 and verse 33. And this reads, it's like my phone. It's deciding to be slow right now. But it tell you that, simply put, Judah and Israel were oppressed together. And that's talking about the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33, it says, "Thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel, the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, were oppressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." So America, again, being the point, the main stage of the so-called white man who is Edom or Esau, the Edomites, according to the scriptures. And more of all, we speaking to the elite of the Edomites because it starts with them, the Amalekites, the small hat people, the Jamaica witch people, as the brother P, refers to them as, they got many different monikers, different ways to express who they are. The elder apostles, they call them the gutter rats. I hear the elder apostle Ramlab, referring to them as that, often, but they got many various ways to explain who they are, different monikers that they got. But yeah, that's the nation of Edom as we know them today. But ultimately, all these so-called white people would fit under the umbrella of being Edomites, and they're people who the Lord has an indignation with forever. I mean, he hates them and he's going to destroy them, off the face of the earth eventually. They're going to be eradicated, so this place, America, which they have, for one, stole the land and then created, well, then named the land after their own name, which is something the scriptures say they do, you know. Um, Let me see. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip the scripture, but yeah, tell you they take lands and they name them after themselves. The scriptures tell you all these things very clear, and this is things that was discussed amongst brothers, you know, it's constantly being discussed amongst brothers, but we spoke about it on the highways just yesterday, so it's something that's fresh in mind. But simply put, this place, America, is a place where they're able to promote their wickedness amongst the entire earth because they have the Lord's chosen people in bondage here, out of their minds, cursed, and basically they help continue our affliction of being of cursed. Forward affliction. Yep, Zechariah 1:15. I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, because this their state right now, they're kicked back because they are enjoying the fruits of the years of their conquest of the so-called black people, the Israelites. And that conquest ultimately it basically brought a large portion of the Israelites to America, right? Again, we got oppressed together as the Southern Kingdom with the Northern Kingdom, so-called Negroes, and then so-called Latinos and natives being the Northern Kingdom. And from here, again in America, is where we've been just put under all types of, just wicked invention, wicked devices. The only way that we can ultimately, if you will, prosper on this side is to sell out, work for these people, which we've been subject to do because of the curses. So it's due to us ultimately falling away from serving the Heavenly Father and keeping His commandments first and foremost, which made us cursed. But as we just read here in Zechariah 1:15, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction of His chosen Israelites. So yeah, we was cursed, but they go out their way to make sure we stay cursed. They do everything they can to make sure we stay down and stay in this fallen state. That's why it just gets worse and worse when you consider so-called black people. That's why you see niggas laying dead in streets, like the scriptures tell you, and not even being buried, and I'm just paraphrasing the scriptures, So our position, our condition is due to this place called America. And again, the point is that the place, this place is the so-called white man's stomping grounds. It's his estate. It's a major estate of land that has been taken and put on display for the world to watch, ultimately for entertainment. That's why you see so-called black people playing all these sports. We're the subject of the eyes of the world, the LeBron James, the Mike Tysons, the Michael Jordan. You see all these people, they've been, made into basically idols. And these idols that are basically idols of slavery. All these men I mentioned, they're known to have money, but it was money given to them by a billionaire that they work for and that they can't buck up against, where you get blackballed, you get talked about crazy. You get talked about crazy regardless because it's all part of the game they play. And it's so much further, it's so much deeper. But all that stuff happens here in America. You got basketball, you got football, you got baseball, you got soccer, you got track, you got so on and so forth. And these just, popular, positions. Let's not talk about nurses, the the medical field, all these things, because, we was used to create this entire, country, to build it up on our backs, the railroad systems, you know, the crops. Everything in America was built off the free labor of the so-called black man, the Israelites, God's chosen. And ultimately the point of this message, because I can keep going, but it's been a meditation, going on for a few days, so I just want to speak on it. But simply put, the so-called white man ain't shit. Esau ain't shit, and he know he not shit, So they help forward our affliction. They put us in this state, but the end all be all is that we not going any further. And the Lord is not allowing them to continue in their way, in their paths. So let's get this real quick. In the book of Lamentations. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 21, and it's been brought out a few times in the past, few weeks, through the brother Padah, brother Shariah. Some of you may know him as Shariah, but the brother Padah, and it's something that basically stuck, as far as reading it. It's been something that, the Lord basically, put in my mind to remember, to call to remembrance, and just meditate, further upon. Right? So again, Lamentations 4 and 21, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. All right? It's talking about Esau, the Edomites, the so-called white man, according to the scriptures. It says that dwellest in the land of Uz. It says the cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked. So yeah, the so-called white man, his ways are ultimately going to creep up and end up being his downfall. His ways, his very self is going to be the very thing that destroys him. And I got a video ultimately that I'm going to play, probably grab some scriptures as we go through, but I'm just going to let it rock after, I get done with these scriptures. Verse 22 says, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. So we've been through our butt whooping. The majority of it. We still will get our tails whooped until the end. That's why we got to endure it until the end of this world. The end being the end of the so-called white man's world. That's what the scriptures is talking about when it's talking about the end of the world. It's not talking about the end of the earth and its running and its, existence. It's talking about the end of the government, the governing of this world, the people who are in rule, the people who are in charge, the people who the earth has been given into their hands, which is the wicked, who is Esau, Edom, according to the scriptures. You can read that in the book of Malachi in the 1st chapter. So the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. That's Israel. Again, the so-called black people, as we're called or known as today. He will no more carry thee away captive, away into captivity. So we're not going back into captivity. And we know who brought us into captivity, who put us in captivity. Worldwide events, historical events. It's talking about the so-called white man. So he's not putting us back in that captivity. We're only going to come out of it. And the portion of Israel that's going to stay in it, the 2/3, they're going to die. They're going to eat nukes. The Lord is going to destroy them. But ultimately, they're going to have to go through that death and pain, but they're going to come back in their right minds in the kingdom of heaven. Because the end of this world denotes the beginning of the world that is to come, which is the world of Israel, the world of Jacob, where we rule, where we reign, which is simply the kingdom of heaven here on earth. Right? It says, O daughter of Edom. Right? It's like, I skipped the part. It says, he will visit thine iniquity, that he being Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. He will visit thine iniquity. Your iniquities is your wickedness, your lies, the bloodshed, all of the, unrighteous dealings you have. It says, O daughter of Edom, he will discover thy sentence. I'm going to read this in the NLT and get to the video. Lamentations 4 and 21. In the NLT, are you rejoicing in the land of Uz, O people of Edom? But you too must drink from the cup of the Lord's anger. You too will be stripped naked in your drunkenness. So everything's going to flip. It's like we were stripped naked and, thrown on plantations and treated like shit. It has to come back. He who leads into captivity must be go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. That's the patience, the faith of the saints. That's what the saints waiting for, a recompense. But vengeance belongs to the Lord. So it's righteous in the Lord's eyes, and he's going to have it. Lamentations 4:22 in the NLT. Oh, beautiful Jerusalem, the children of Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, the Israelites, the Israel of God, ultimately starting with the elect. It says your punishment will end. You soon will return from exile. So we coming out of the bondage. No more slaves. We're not going back into chateau slavery. We're only going to get stronger, especially of us who have exited the world and have entered into the Lord's, grace through the blood of Yahweh Shai, through understanding his will, these scriptures. It says, but Edom, your punishment is just beginning. Soon your many sins will be exposed. So that's perfect lineup to get to what I want to bring out, what I want to show, which is this video. It's an Edomite, and as you see the title of his video, it says, white man explains why white people ain't shit. So I'm gonna let this rock, and then I'm gonna close out. Here we go.
Hey, so breaking news. White people ain't shit. Just kind of felt like saying that. I mean, what do you really say after that? There's nothing to follow up. White people ain't shit. But it's true, though, if you think about it. Like, what group of people is more racist than us, more hateful than us? What group of people do you know that started over 100 plus race massacres and have stripped everything from other groups of people of color? Black people, however you want to categorize, and never pay it back. Pay it back. Ever. I mean, take everything they own, properties, businesses, family. Use their lynch them and do unspeakable acts to them. Use their skin for shoes and wallets and belts and hats. Use their teeth to replace ours. Use their hair to stuff chairs and shit. Or take pictures of these lynchings and put them on postcards and send them across states or the U.S. to your family and friends as a way to joke and shit. Like, I just made me sick, dude. I hate us. I do. I really hate us. I mean, just strip everything and not pay it back. And be so hateful and so spiteful to the point that we put literature in contracts, especially with these insurance companies, that will prevent us from having to pay these people back as long as we call them riots, not massacres. Like, there's nobody more hateful than us. Take. A little bit of violence, a lot of bit of violence sprinkled in. Take some more. Whether that's people's fucking property or people's inventions. White people love taking credit for shit they never invented, but a brother or sister did. And we pay nothing back. Or you one of the cool ones, so to speak, and you take from the culture, and you don't contribute nothing back. You're no different. You're no fucking different. Or the ones that get mad when people call white people out as a whole, like you get triggered or something. And you feel like you gotta defend the white race, put your white knight suit on and shit. Like, maybe you should take inventory on what it is that makes you feel like you gotta take up for white folk when people speak on us as a whole. What have you done? What have you said? Why do you feel guilty? Why do you feel like you're targeted in this? Why is it someone like me can sit here and join in on conversations against white people and not feel offended one fucking bit, but people like you do feel offended? I don't know. Maybe because you did some shit and I ain't. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but simply put, the video go longer. It's a longer portion of that video, but it's interesting to watch. But just giving a little portion of that to show and to aid to the fact that they gonna make themselves naked because they revealing themselves to be nothing, to be shit. He said white people ain't shit. He knows people ain't shit. And if you listen to the fullness of the video that man made, it's depth and details, and all these people know it. All those people know it, the Edomites. They know what they are. They know how they are. And that's why the Lord is, he's going to get them. But with that, I'm just going to say, Lord willing, this was something edifying, something useful to the nation, But until next time, I'm going to say shalom.